Alright boys, this is round 2, and we're using a different microphone because my other one does not seem to want to pick up my voice. I had troubles with it before, it took an hour to get it to work anyway for the last video. Right now I'm using the webcam mic, but it really, if anything, it probably sounds better, actually. But there is an AC on in the background, I don't believe it's picking it up, but you let me know. But from what I can hear, I don't really hear it. Cool. So today we're going to be talking about my time as a wedding server. So I worked as a wedding server for, I don't know, a couple of months to maybe 6 months tops. And I have, again, bullet points here. I didn't lock myself into a firm script or anything, so bear with me. So far feedback was that it was good the last time, so I figured stick with that and, I'll just work with that and get better. It's not my first time talking to myself in a room alone, so... So first I wanted to start with my overall observations of weddings that I've seen in my time there. And this was a bit of a while ago, but also, as I talk about names and stuff, I'm just going to refer to women as Becky and guys as guys or boys. Not going to name any names. I'm not going to come up with fake names, nothing like that. So, overall wedding observations. Number 1. Heterosexual couples have no love. Not once in my entire time there, which again could have been up to 6 months. I forget at this point how long I worked there. It wasn't a very long time, but every time I went there, it was a wedding. That's all I was there for, right? So 99% of the time, I was a heterosexual couple, and I only actually ever had one gay wedding. We'll get to that. But the heterosexual couples, they have no love. The woman is clearly just there to live a fantasy, as if they're a movie star. People make jokes at the groom's expense all the time. The wedding is for her. Everyone gets drunk. Nobody likes each other. And these are supposed to be all family and friends, but, I mean, just in general, there's no love anywhere. Like, whether it be romantic or otherwise, there's no familial bonds that I'm seeing. Everyone just wants to get drunk, basically. Jokes at the groom's expense. I think I said that already, but it's just terrible. And oh my god, do you see so many crazy shit? You see white dudes marrying white women who have mulatto children. It's always great. A lot of single mothers getting married. I saw a lot of single mothers getting married. Very few young couples. Most were older than me, and at the time I was 30 or 31, and I'm 32 now, so, but a lot of times the couples were older. They were in their 40s and 50s. In fact, I think the gay couple was actually one of the oldest couples that I've ever seen, and they had to be pushing at least 50s or 60s. But the gay couple was the only one. The only time I saw any love between people was the gay couple. It was rather wholesome, and again, you just see it. You could see it in their eyes and in their behavior. When you see the heterosexual weddings, it's just like a performance. It's all performance on everyone's part, and the wedding seems more designed for the woman to have her spotlight more than anything else, and for the man to be the butt end of every joke under the sun. Even the guys would make fun of themselves. This job was one of the most black-pilling jobs, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, because there's a lot more to it. So, I figured the next thing to do is talk about the coworkers, because that's kind of where most of the stories kind of come from. So, one of the first coworkers I met was, we're going to call him Small Boy, because he had to be 5'2". Absolutely nobody liked him or respected him. And he was hard to like or respect, for the record, because he wasn't very well socialized. But the reality is, given his height, he probably doesn't have a lot of friends. And he most certainly was definitely a virgin and did not have much success with women. He came across, very much so, like a covert, angry incel. Basically, sometimes he would vent his frustrations to me because I was the only one that treated him with any ounce of respect, and even I found it hard to respect him just because he was very blue-pilled, seemingly. and he thought he was going to make it with his writing, but every time he talked about his writing, he would just drone on, and none of it was very interesting. And I say this as a writer myself. Now, granted, most writers suck, but that's a different topic. Let's not go down that road. So that was Small Boy. He left shortly after I started, like within the first couple of weeks. And I don't know how long he was working there. I think it was months, but nobody. I don't blame him. I understand why he left. Because nobody respected him. Nobody. Not a single person that I saw interact with him respected him whatsoever. Besides his height, he also was not much of a looker. His hair wasn't very well done. He had hair, but it wasn't very well styled or anything like that. He definitely didn't look Smax, let's put it that way. And he was probably a 3 out of 10. It's probably a 3 out of 10. Pretty ugly. I tried, but I can only do so much. There was another Small Boy who presumably still works at that job, I think. But I have no idea. I haven't kept in contact with him because he's loud, crazy, and obsessed with religion as a cope. He talked about Jesus a lot, which, for the record, I have nothing against Christianity or anything like that. But just the way he would go about it, he was just very boisterous. And I don't like loud people. I like my quiet and peace. He also looked like Jesus. No shit. He looked like Jesus. He was very jester maxed. And he was probably taller than the other guy, but he was still probably 5'4" tops. And he was clearly frustrated with his position in life. He would vent to me. He was actually pretty black-pilled. He was fighting the black pill, though. He was in a position where he did not want to acknowledge it. He didn't want to accept it. He kept asking me for some kind of insight as to whether or not this or that could be, circumvented, or if there was some way to bypass the black pill. Not that we ever discussed the term black pill directly, but he was on the level, but he was denying the level, right? So very cope obsessed, very unfortunate, and he was hard to like just because he was so loud, and he didn't have very good socialization either, but in a more unhinged way compared to other Small Boy. Then we have Chad Light. We had Chad Light. He was tall. He was lanky. Very cool dude. I had actually no issues with him. He's a great guy. Very helpful. Very nice. Honestly, a soy boy. Honestly. But he did look like a Chad Light. At the very least, he was a Chad Light. Dressed himself well. Groomed himself. Not that well, actually. But, he had nice hair. He had a nice chin, nice jaw. Very tall, very tall. He could have been 6'4" for all I know. Right? Hard to tell from down here. I'm 5'7", so. And I remember one night. This was a brutal night. I remember taking a picture of this and showing it to my friend over Discord and just venting to him about how raging I was. I was absolutely raging a bit about this. He would literally have all of the female coworkers, not even just the ones working the wedding that he was working, because there was often multiple weddings that were worked at the same time, and we were all assigned to different weddings. But I remember, I swear to God, he was standing there, talking to no less than 15 different women, all fawning over him. It was literally a huddle around him. It was crazy to see. Super blackpilling, bro. I wish I still had the photo. I would at least blur it out, but honestly, that might give it away anyway where it was. But God, that was so blackpilling. That was so brutal, and that never happened to any other guy that worked there. There was only this one Chad Light, and again, honestly, he was probably blue pilled as shit. To be honest with you, he was very clearly liberal soy boy type of shit. Didn't matter. His height was everything he needed, and also his face. His face was pretty good. Like I said, Chad Light, probably at least a 7, if not an 8 out of 10. Didn't do a very good job with shaving or anything necessarily. He tried to keep himself clean shaven, but he didn't always do a great job of it. But great guy. I liked him. No problem with him. Then the other male coworkers were basically not too memorable. They were either average to ugly, slightly taller or slightly shorter than me, or same height. Generally disrespected, interacted with as little as possible. There was one guy who was older than me, balding, kind of looked like the actor, except with less hair, the actor from the movie Whatever, which is based off the book Whatever, which I highly recommend. Michel Houellebecq is the name. I believe that's how you say it. He's a French guy. So it's not a woman Michelle, it's a man Michelle. But I'm pretty sure in that sense his name would be Michelle. Maybe it's Michael. I don't know. Sue me. But he looked very much like that actor, except worse nose and basically very disgusting bald hair. Very disgusting, did not groom himself. Bad teeth, the works. But the other guys were all pretty average. Pretty much everyone did some kind of drug, as far as I know. Everyone was like smoking weed except me. I don't do any drugs, so I don't drink, I don't smoke. But pretty much everyone was doing some kind of drugs, whether that be cigarettes or weed, usually both, but made for some interesting times sometimes, that's for sure. Then there was Asian Becky. She was older than me. I don't forget how much older, but she was very quiet, generally, stuck to professionalism. Didn't hate me, didn't like me. Pretty much just kept away from everyone, honestly. Kept her nose down, so to speak. Very strange for a woman worker, but in my experience, having worked many jobs, but we'll get to those later. Yeah, that was Asian Becky. In general, this job was the most like high school that I've ever seen. It was very cliquish. It was basically you had a hierarchy of bitches. That's basically how I would put it. For the men, there was no hierarchy. The men were all chill with each other. The women had a hierarchy of bitches, and it was a competition basically of who looked the prettiest, but also who was the bossiest bitch. And the bossiest bitch was one of the ugliest bitches, actually. We'll talk about her, actually. The ugliest bitch... yeah, she was probably the ugliest bitch. She had a fiancé who was in jail. Never saw a picture of him, but we can only guess that he was an upstanding black gentleman that didn't do nothing. But I digress. The other Becky, not terribly ugly, but very, very borderline average, if not ugly. She was a single mother, and I forget whether she dated I think it was a Puerto Rican. Yeah, I think she dated a Puerto Rican, and she got knocked up by a Puerto Rican. So another white woman lost. Not a terrible loss, but she got knocked up by a Puerto Rican. She told me that Puerto Ricans are crazy, and to never date them. Not that I think I've ever had the opportunity to, but oh well. And both of them had lesbianic tendencies. They would grind on each other behind the curtain. There would be a curtain where we go where the dishes were done and everything. So behind the curtain, when the music was playing, they would be grinding on each other sometimes. They'd sit in each other's lap. I'm surprised they didn't fucking make out. It's crazy to me because they are coworkers, and this is a job at a prestigious location. Like, this is not a cheap wedding place. This was not a cheap wedding place. This was a rather expensive one. They were booked every fucking day of the week, really. It's just crazy that nobody bats an eye when women do weird sexual shit at work. I've noticed this in several jobs. I mean, I'll talk about this other job later in another video, but I worked at a restaurant, for example, and two women were talking about how one of the women got railed so hard she could barely walk by Chad, and he also fucked her without a condom. Just amazing conversation for what should be a work environment. I can only imagine what would happen to me, how much trouble I'd be in if I started talking about how I fucked my ex's asshole or something. Crazy, man. It's crazy what they get away with. There was another Becky. She was taller than me. She gets promoted after I get fired. I'm pretty sure she's the reason I got fired. And she turns into more of a cunt. I knew this because one of the small boy that didn't quit, the Jesus guy, he told me that she became more of a bitch after she got promoted. And the only reason she probably got promoted is because all the female coworkers suck up to the bosses. All of them. They all flirt with them, smile at them. It's, I experienced this myself at another job where I was the boss. It's crazy how, I think Thinking Ape had a video on this, where he talked about how the context is important for a woman's attraction. And if you are above her in the hierarchy, she'll be more attracted to you. Status maxing, basically. But I've experienced that myself, and none of my bosses were particularly attractive. We did have, I guess you would consider him a Chad Light. He wasn't as tall as Chad Light that I mentioned before, but he had a good face, and he had a very good, appealing style to it. And the first curl worker who was training me asked me which car I drive. If she was interested in me, the answer to that killed her interest real quick. And I remind you, this was a wedding server job, nothing prestigious nor high paying, so I don't know what car she was expecting. But she obviously didn't like the answer. Not the first time a woman has asked what car I drive. I was on a date once, and a woman asked me what car I drove. And I had to explain to her that the car was old and the heat didn't work. Nor the AC in general, actually, it didn't work. And she was like, can't you fix that? And I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm probably going to replace this car anyway, so why would I spend the fucking money to do that? Obviously, I never saw her again, but it's like these gold digging questions, you know? It's hilarious to me. So, thoughts on the job in general. Honestly, it was probably the best job I ever had. The work was incredibly easy. The job was so simple. All you had to do was basically just learn how the table works. At each stage of the wedding, the table has to look a certain way. Has to have, XYZ plate, XYZ items on it. And as the wedding goes on, you remove more and more until by the end of the wedding, everything is gone, right? Other than that, you really just got to worry about people getting water. You got to make sure people get water. That's really about it. Past that, sometimes people would ask you to get drinks. Sometimes they would tip you. That's about it. That's the job. You could chill. Most of the job was chill. Like, the wedding might be 3 or 4 hours, and you'd probably be chilling for, at least an hour of that. Not doing much of anything. So, very chill job. The problem, as is with most jobs, it's the people that suck. I recall me, myself, and I started the job being pretty chill and jester maxing. But I definitely hit a black pill rage point at some point, and I just stopped jester maxing. And when I stopped jester maxing, I just stopped. And when I stopped, all the women noticeably stopped interacting with me when I was no longer being a jester. There was a girl that I was actually flirting with a bit, and she didn't seem to mind the flirting, but it was at least a month or 2 months or 3 or more. And then suddenly, she says the magical words. Say them with me, brothers. Say them with me. My boyfriend. And I stopped talking to her pretty much altogether. And she definitely noticed. Again, this is part of the reason I think I was fired, is because Dr. Orion on PsychHacks has a great video on this, where you can't give a woman something and then take it away, whether you're dating her or not. He said in the context of dating, but I would say, rule of thumb, never give a woman anything that you need to take away from her in the future, unless you plan to never interact with her again, because women are like babies, right? So the analogy here is, if you give a baby a lollipop and then you take it away, it cries, but if you never gave it the lollipop in the first place, it's not going to cry. Because the head bitch in charge, the one that got promoted after, I also pretty much stopped interacting with her, and I recall I was jester maxing so well, so flawlessly, that she said, and I quote, "You make the squirrels in my head happy." I've never had a woman say that to me before, but she did say that. And, yeah. But I think that's about it for all the stories I really have for this job. Nothing else is really coming to mind. I lost the job because I just got ghosted. They just stopped putting me on the schedule. I asked for part-time anyway, but I was working around 20 hours a week. They had me maybe go 3 or 4 nights a week. But they just ghosted me. They just stopped putting me on the schedule. None of the bosses would talk to me. Nobody would talk to me. I eventually got a call from a lady in the financial part of HR, and she said, "We no longer need your services," and that was the reason given for just ghosting me. I didn't hear from her for 3 weeks after the fact that they stopped scheduling me, so I already knew the job was done. But pretty much the lesson here was, if you want to be the quiet guy, just be the quiet guy. If you want to be the jester, you have to always be the jester. And that shit gets tiresome, bro. It gets tiresome to jester for bitches who don't say thank you. I remember helping these women sometimes. And I learned to stop helping them. I actually stopped helping them unless they explicitly asked for it, because you would help them, and then I'd have to claw and tooth my way to a thank you. I was worth about 3 of their servers, because these bitches were so lazy. Like all jobs that I've had, all the women are lazy. They don't do anything. They talk all the fucking time about worthless shit. You could easily replace them with the leg of like a dude. Like they're worth that little. They're not even a whole person. Gosh. Okay. But yeah, I was tired of being ignored by my coworkers, so I just generally had a very pissed off attitude, which didn't help matters. But again, I think the main thing is that when I stopped jester maxing was when the problem started. So there you go. I think that's about it. I think that's all I got. So if you enjoyed the video, suck my ass. See you. Oh, not that you were going to do this, but pro tip. Not that you were capable of doing this, actually. But don't get married.